Good morning, good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for joining us today. My name's John Van Order. We're going to be going through the machine lifecycle management presentation today. I'm going to cover repair before failure and repair options. I also have Tim Totten on the call as well, and he's going to be going through the Caterpillar Certified Rebuild Program. Again, welcome to the presentation today. Again, my name is John Van Order. I work for Caterpillar Resource Industries. I'm the RI Portfolio Manager, Lifecycle Services, Repair Options Deployment. I have 22 plus years of experience with CAT, multiple roles in service ops, service operations representative, technical representative, parts sales territory manager, parts marketing support, customer account management, and repair options dealer development, and also calling on dealers worldwide. Tim, do you want to give a little background on yourself?
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. This is Tim Totten. I'm a program consultant working focused on the drivetrain components within Resource Industry Services Development. Been with Caterpillar just over 21 years, all in product support, component repair option development, and have worked with dealers both regionally and globally. Prior to Caterpillar, I have just over 15 years of product support experience with other off-highway mobile equipment OEMs. So thanks for joining.
Okay, we'll get started. Just a little housekeeping. Obviously, as we go through the presentation, every dealer offers different repair options depending on what makes sense for your operation and serves as an advisor of optimizing owning and operating costs. These repair options are very personalized and very specific based on that dealer-specific territory, as well as the customer's operations and conditions and equipment, fleet and needs. Now we're going to move into the value of repair before failure. So why repair before failure? What's the benefit of that? As a lot of you can imagine, CAT parts are designed to last multiple lives, which means we've designed reusability into our parts, and we'll talk about the level of our parts in the next couple of slides. We also have failures is expensive. In most cases, it's 2.5 times more expensive for an after failure repair versus a before failure repair. And also, when we run those components to failure, we potentially could cause contingent damage, and that contingent damage to parts that don't need replacement, and we'll talk about that in future slides as well. And with the proper component management processes and procedures, 90% of the failures can be prevented. And you'll see the chart to the right here. That's what that illustrates. Why repair after failure? So there are reasons why we would do repair after failure. One of those is why fix it if it's not broken. One of the side effects of that, though, is it will fail at some point and cost more to repair if we do run it to after failure. And repairing early will save money down the road as well, and we'll cover some of those repairs potentially in future slides. Production demands require us to keep the machine running. So current production is more important than taking the machine down for future breakdown. But failure down the road could have a negative impact on the long-term production. So if we're not planning these repairs and doing it before failure, that could definitely affect our production targets and goals. Turnaround time is too long. Every repair takes a certain amount of time, but the key here is repair after failure often takes longer than a before failure. So keep that in mind. And then we can't forget about the operator as well. As the operator communication when experienced machine problems, that could be a lack of communication between shift changes, between the operations and production teams. It could be a different array of why we might not communicate a potential problem, or we might just not communicate that problem because we don't want potential issues to keep. We want to keep that machine running so we can have production. Next, we're going to move into the level of CAT parts. Each level has a built-in strength to extend machine and component life. But more importantly, we want to capture that built-in value of your overall machine purchase by reusing those parts that are designed to be reused. Level 1 parts, those are your fast wear parts. So those are the parts that are mate against those level 2 and level 3 parts that protect that investment. And those level 1 parts, I have a powertrain example here, and you'll see some pictures to the right here. But bearings, gasket seals, piston rings, those type of things, anti-friction bearings, thrust washers, those would be considered your 100% replacement parts as your level 1 parts. Next, we're going to move into your level 2 parts. Level 2 parts are your slow wearing parts, and the key to your level 2 parts is they're designed with usability in mind. And those parts are your pistons, your gears, shafts, discs, and those type of parts. And those parts, Caterpillar has reusability guidelines and processes and procedures for our dealers to follow. And we can either salvage some of these parts to extend its life, but if they do not meet specification, we throw those replacement. And thirdly, your level 3 parts, those are supposed to be designed for the life of the machine. These repairs are before failure is critical. If repairs needed, component failures can increase cost dramatically. So if we're running the components to destruction or to failure, we don't want to be ventilating blocks or breaking wheel group housings and those type of things to where we can't salvage those items. And those items also, some additional example are your connecting rods. So those are parts that we have multiple lives, and in most cases last the life of the machine and should never need to be replaced as long as we're doing the before failure philosophy. The next slide, what I've done here is provided an example of a lower level bearing reseal, a before failure repair, and then an after failure repair. And this specific example is on a mining truck, transmission and transfer gears. So if you look at the first repair, as a rebearing reseal, the hours to rebuild 15,000. Cost of the rebuild for that particular lower level repair is $19,159. Divide those two numbers and you get a cost per hour of $1.28. So the reason why we get a cheaper cost per hour compared to the other examples is we're maximizing our reuse of our CAT parts. So by running that component to before failure to 15,000 hours, we're able to benefit from level 2 and level 3 part reusability. And we're replacing our level 1 parts because those are the parts that wear fast and are replaced 100% of the time when we do a rebearing reseal. If you look into the second problem or repair, I should say, is we run that same component to 18,000 hours before failure. That cost, because of our reusability and we maybe deteriorated some of those level 2 parts to where we have to replace them, our cost per hour has gone up a little bit. So we've gone from $1.28 to $2.13 by dividing your cost of rebuild into your hours. So that's the two examples. But where it really starts to escalate in cost is when you get into an after failure. So this is an after failure with CAT reman and partial core credit. So you're pushing that component an additional 3,000 hours to 21,000 hours. The cost of that rebuild is 109,000 and some change, bringing your cost per hour to $5.21. Now, the reason why the cost is increased is because you have minimal opportunity to reuse parts because you've had an after failure event, and that could be catastrophic. You could have ventilated a block, for instance, or broken a wheel group housing. So that's what that illustrates. And the other line I want to bring everybody's attention to is this extra 3,000 hours. So to run that machine an extra 3,000 hours or component an extra 3,000 hours to get production, your cost per hour increases dramatically. So you go up to $23.72. So how you calculate that number is you take your 109, subtract it from 38, and divide it by 3,000. That's where you get your $23.72. As I said in my earlier slides, the time it's 2.5 times more expensive for an after failure than before failure, and this illustrates that. And if you want to look at your return on how you recoup your investment or return on investment, if you in payback hours, you can take the 109,412, divide that by your before failure cost per hour, $2.13. So to get your investment recouped or your payback on your investment, you'd have to run that component 51,471 hours. So that's what this illustrates, is the importance of before failure and the effects it has financially on your after failure philosophy. Managing your CAT components, there's 4 areas that we focus on as it comes to managing your CAT components. First and foremost, you want to have good preventive maintenance practices, follow the operators and maintenance manual. If you decide to do extended oil intervals, you want to make sure you have the SOS and you're religiously checking those samplings to make sure we don't have any contaminants in our oil. You want to take advantage of your lower level repairs. In the previous example, you want to make sure that you're not running those components, pushing the limit of those components where you start deteriorating those level 2 parts and you're eliminating reusability, or running those components to failure where you have to start replacing those level 2 and level 3 hard parts, as are some of them people refer those as. You want to pay attention to your plan and problem indicators. So your planned events, making sure you have good documentation and history. And also when you have those problem indicators, when that machine isn't scheduled for maintenance and those type of events, that we're documenting that. So there could be a problem looming, but we're not sure what it is yet, but we're documenting that and putting that in our repair history. And obviously plan and schedule repairs to avoid unscheduled downtime. If we can get a schedule to where we have planned repairs, planning and scheduling those repairs obviously benefits production, and we can schedule around that and move our fleet to where we need to move them to get production. And then also contact your local CAT dealer if you need help in these 4 areas. We also have inspection programs, whether that's walk-around inspections, training what to look for, also your TA1s, TA2s. We have training on how to get the most life out of your component and how to manage your components. Cost comparisons from doing a lower level repair to maybe a complete rebuild on that component. But we can help you with that and help you decide what repair is best for you. Planning for your repairs, and then also condition monitoring. We can help with that as well. Condition monitoring is the next slide we're going to move into. Condition monitoring is critical to identifying repairs before failure. You'll see the 5 circles within the condition monitoring elements. The top one, SOS fluid analysis, is very, very important. Highly recommend doing that so you can really understand the health of your components in your machine. It's a limited monthly assurance program to make sure that you're watching those components and catching those things that potentially could cause an after failure event, which could affect your investment down the road. Inspections, whether that's walk-around inspections, TA1s, TA2s. Site conditions has a large effect on your repair before failures as well, whether you're running a high-speed, long-distance haul, or you're climbing out of the pit at low speeds, high RPM, low speeds. Repair history as well. What you've done in the past might not meet or match what you need to do in the future. So looking at your repair history, identifying what you've done and how you've done it and if it was effective. And then all your electronic data. So that's all your connectivity data, fault codes from sensors, ET, and all the data, product link associated with that, fuel burn, and all those things. So those are your 5 elements of condition monitoring that's important to help you with your repair before failure. Now we're going to transition into repair options. The Caterpillar Advantage. You see 3 boxes on the screen. Expert advice and repair, broad range of options, time and quote and repair. So we'll start with broad range of options. We want to have the fullest range of repair options possible for the fleet that's in your territory or for your operations. And that could range from your low level repairs from a re-bearing resale up to new, and then everything in between, whether that's dealer exchange or maybe it's a re-bearing resale plus, which we'll go over the framework in the next slide. But reality is we want to make sure we offer those broad range of repairs. And where we do see gaps with our dealers, we want to make sure those gaps are being filled to support our customers. We also want to have expert advice and repair. So we want our dealers to be the expert in keeping equipment running, and also focus on the lowest owning operating cost, and understand customer purchase drivers so we can offer and deliver on what's important to the customer for whatever situation that customer is in, whether that machine is going to be owned and operated for the long term, or maybe it's a machine that's going to be cycling out of the fleet, various other things. Being able to have expert advice and repair, to consult with customers and be that trusted advisor, and then also have timely quote and repair as well. And when we have a situation where we have to have a repair, we want to make sure we have that quote in a timely manner within 24 hours. And then also once that component shows up, being able to deliver on that repair in a timely manner to get that machine up and running. The repair option framework is what you see on the screen now. The way we've split it up is we have 3 levels. We have actually 5 levels, level 1 through 5, where your low level repairs is to keep your level 1s and 2s, or to keep your machine running to optimize your component. And then level 3 through 4 is obviously to set your components back to 0. So your level 1 through 5, you'll see the primary purchase drivers a match with the levels as well. So depending on the ownership of that asset or your fleet, will also determine on what level of repair you should do. Also the utilization of that asset. Is that asset a primary production machine, or is it a utility machine where it doesn't work on a high impact on day-to-day, something we need to rely on. And then also, as you can imagine, depending on ownership and utilization, affordability comes in, or price comes into the effect. Do we need a preferred guaranteed pricing, guaranteed turnaround time, or can we wait those couple extra days to cycle that component through the dealer repair facility because it's a utility machine? We don't necessarily need it for production. And then turnaround time. Obviously, if it's fast, it's going to be probably a little bit more expensive, but if we're flexible and we can schedule that component and fit it into the current dealer business model and what they have going on in their shop, we can have some flexibility on price. So those are the levels that we go through. So you have level 1, re-bearing resale. Level 2 is a re-bearing resale plus. So that's your level 1 plus. We inspect the level 2 parts for reusability. So this could be your level 1, level 2 could be a turbo rebuild, or a engine top end engine rebuild to get that component to your desired machine life, or that's 18 or 15,000 hours. So you might have some repairs you might have to do at 6,000 or 8,000 hours to get you there. We call those level 1s, level 2s. And then your level 3s through 5s are 0-hour components again. So that would be your dealer rebuilds, and then also, which Tim will talk about in the future slide deck, is your certified components as well. Quick turn, low price repairs save time and money. So replace lower worn out powertrain parts before they fail and cause damage to more expensive parts. So this illustrates that. So you have the X axis is cost, your Y axis is hours. As we do our lower level repairs, we're analyzing key indicators. So we have a key indicator potentially that tells us, hey, we might want to look at redoing this, rebearing this turbo, or maybe doing some heads. Or your mid-level repair, which is maybe a top end as well, to get you to that desired point of your dealer rebuild. When you start pushing these and not doing those repairs to get to your desired rebuild target hour, as you get into the at-risk, if repair is not completed, your options are not as broad. So that's the other benefit of doing your lower level repairs. But also you're planning for before failure repairs, which will save you time and money in the long run. Advantages of completing lower level repairs: protects and extends the life of your major components by replacing inexpensive wear parts. Those are your level 1 parts, as we talked about earlier, protecting those level 2 parts for reusability and avoiding that catastrophic failure that could potentially damage that housing that would need to be replaced. As it relates to engines, you can restore fuel efficiency for its optimal level, reducing your fuel costs. So maybe we need to do a mid-level fuel system rebuild. But the rest of the engine can last for another 6,000 or 7,000 hours. So we get to the complete component to the target life. Allows you to schedule downtime, plan for maintenance and repair costs, prevents oil leaks by replacing worn out gaskets and seals, reduces oil consumption, and then also increases machine productivity by completing repairs before they result in catastrophic failure, as we mentioned in the last couple of slides. And then as we start to understand where your fleet is and your hours and your operations, there's questions that our dealers ask to understand where your component is and what's the best solution. So every situation is different, and how do you choose the best repair? So as we walk through the 4 items: ownership, utilization, affordability, turnaround time, that kind of helps our dealers hone into what's the best solution from a component rebuild for the customer, whether that's, are we going to keep that machine for the long haul, or are we going to be transitioning that machine out of the fleet the next couple months? Utilization, that's, is it a primary loading tool or is it more of a utility machine? And also affordability, depending on what that utilization is, affects that, and also your turnaround time. So do we need, if we can be less flexible and have we're less flexible when we need that turnaround time fast, we'll do what we need to do that, or do we have some flexibility and we can schedule that at a later time or work it into the current dealer workload. Tim, I'll hand it over to you to talk about reman.
All right, thank you, John. Again, good afternoon, good morning, good evening, everyone. This is Tim. Just as a reminder, on your screen there is a Q&A box. If you have any questions for John or I, please use that feature to ask your questions. So what is remanufacturing? Basically described, it's using a manufacturing environment to return an end-of-life or broken, failed component to like new condition. Remanufacturing from a Caterpillar perspective is very important. We do know the original design, even any design changes, specifications. We do implement critical engineering updates as needed, maybe on an older component. We have very sophisticated salvage techniques, and we continue to develop new ones as we expand the offering. We have the reuse guidelines that we understand which parts we need to replace all the time versus which ones we can reuse. We use the same manufacturing process that the original new component it uses, as well as the quality control. And the key to all this is CAT engines and components are in fact designed and built to be remanufactured for a second life. So what is remanufacturing? And it's interesting, as I've talked to people over the years, a lot of people will use rebuild and remanufacturing synonymously. And in fact, they're 2 completely different processes. Whether it's a rebuild, repair and return, or rebuild and return versus components, exchange components that your dealers have available for your machines. Basically, what that does is you disassemble the part, you inspect everything, you replace the wear parts, the reusable parts are put back in and back into the same housing or case. Versus reman, when we get a core back from reman from a dealer and customer, we completely disassemble that after cleaning. We inspect each individual parts, and it goes into a parts bin to be used on your manufacturing line. If it cannot be salvaged or does not meet reuse guidelines, then we'll scrap it and put a new part in the bin in its place. and then we assemble this. And the big difference is on a rebuild, every part that's reused goes back into the same component versus reman. The likelihood of all those parts that came out of the original engine, for example, will not make it back into that same engine. So it is truly a manufacturing process that's using the core as its prime raw material versus new material. So how does it work? So as you buy machines and commission machines, you put the machine to work, you utilize it, it does its job, you follow your regular maintenance program, and as it gains hours, you wear out parts in various components within those machines. So when we look at life cycle of the reman side, we will then take that core, as mentioned before, as our raw material. We'll clean it, we'll salvage it, we'll test parts, we will rebuild a component using used parts and some level of new parts, test it, and it goes into the supply chain. So what type of products does Caterpillar offer? We have a broad offering of reman products available, from piece parts like injectors or crankshafts or monitors, ECMs, subassemblies like short blocks, long blocks, all the way up to complete components that you can see there on the right-hand side. So when is Cat Reman the right solution for you? That I would recommend you have that conversation with your dealer. It is a real good solution when the shortest turnaround time is needed. It's also there to support the dealers. It is affordable when you compare it to new, and the benefits of it, you get same as new performance, same as new warranty. Again, we talked about the engineering updates being added, as well as it reduces your repair and overhaul costs and downtime compared to using new components or a rebuild and return type of program. So how do you know what's available from Cat Reman? Again, please consult with your local Cat dealer, and you can also look at the Reman portion on parts.dealer.cat.com. So as John went through the repair option framework, Reman is a very important product of the many options that are available from your dealer, and it may make sense in a lot of cases, and in other cases you may choose to rebuild. So we're going to move in to our Caterpillar certified rebuild programs. We have 4 levels. A certified CCR or CAT certified rebuild, we refer to that as a full machine rebuild. CPT or CAT powertrain rebuild. CPT plus is additional parts above and beyond the standard CPT, and then a certified machine component rebuild. And we'll go into a little bit of detail on each of these. So what is it? So there's a lot of things, and I'll just point out a few that we go. The key here, when we do a full machine certified rebuild, you do in fact get a new serial number. It uses the same serial number prefix as the original, but we do change the serial number itself. Just like Reman, updates or critical updates are incorporated. If you're in a highly regulated area, it is a great time if you need to upgrade your engines from a higher tier level, and it's rebuilt like new. Matter of fact, there's some people directly involved with the certified rebuild programs that will say in a lot of cases it's better than new because all the critical engineering updates are incorporated. What is it? Again, it's a complete rebuild process endorsed by Caterpillar. Only Caterpillar dealers can use it. They are the only ones that have all the specifications and technical documentations to do a certified rebuild. A lot of parts either get new or reconditioned. And we do have critical or required parts to be replaced. Now, what's interesting about that is if it's a required part, but there is a reuse and salvage guideline associated with that part, that does take precedence. There are optional updates and upgrades that you can include in a certified rebuild, and it looks and operates like a new machine. So I have a question here on inspection. What is a TA1 and a TA2? TA stands for technical analysis. A TA1 basically is a physical walk around with a recommended list from Caterpillar by machine model, by machine product group that looks at the condition of the machine. A TA2 is a conjunction with the TA1, as well as it does a lot more inspections. It will do the fluid analysis. It will check pressures and flows and those type of technical checks. Yes, for certified rebuild, the dealers can use the new reman or even and dealer exchange parts, rebuilt parts as well. The second question. So just to give you an idea of some of the success stories our dealers have had with the certified rebuild program, this was the before picture of a 16H, as well as a D11 in the background. It looks like it had a pretty rough life. And then after the dealer completed full certified rebuild, that's what it looked like. This is a picture of a 789. I believe this was out at Con Expo a few years ago that was on display there, but this is a full certified rebuild machine. This underground truck, in pretty rough shape. That's what it looked like when it arrived at the dealer. And that's what it looked like after the dealer completed the rebuild. And then one more example. Here's a 793 that obviously was decommissioned to do the rebuild. And these are the portions of the machine that were going ready to get shipped back to the mine site to get recommissioned.
We have another question in the chat, Tim. Q&A.
Yeah, I see. I'm reading it.
Okay, sorry. I didn't know if you saw
CCR,
it.
do you provide a base paper certification? Yes, plus you will receive a new serial number plate as well. Okay. So CAT requirements, we do have required specifications. We have required parts replacement. And as we talked earlier, if salvage and reuse guidelines associated with that required part, those take precedence. Again, there are optional engineering updates as well as upgrades and retrofits that can be added during the process. There are required documented time checks that our dealers perform. The key is, and we'll get into the CPTs in a minute, you can do multiple CPTs on a machine, but Caterpillar only allows to do a full certified rebuild once on a machine. So what's in it for you, the customer? In a lot of cases, a certified rebuild's in that 50 to 60% of a new CAT machine. You get the new warranty on new parts. There is extended coverage available on the powertrain as well as financing. Please work with your dealer to understand those options. It allows you budget flexibility, whether you choose to use it as a capital expenditure through your CapEx, or if you do it through your repair and maintenance budget. And it provides improved machine availability. Again, we talked about the engineering update, critical engineering updates. That second bullet under there, replace parts such as harnesses, sensors, gauges. switches. There's a whole laundry list of those type of parts that are required to be replaced. And please keep that in mind because we'll show something on a later slide. Again, you get a new product identification number. Okay. So again, why the rebuild program? The biggest reason is Cat machines are built to be rebuilt. It helps you maximize production, like new machine coverage. You know, and a lot of customers will do a certified rebuild because they have some experienced operators that like that machine. They are very efficient operating that machine, and they may be a little reluctant to go to new technology. That's another reason why a lot of customers will do a certified rebuild. This is a limited coverage slide. If you have a machine that you want certified rebuild, please work with your dealer. If it's not in the program, they can request that it be added. We get requests for additional machines on a very regularly. So let's talk about a certified rebuild or certified powertrain. In some cases where we have a full certified rebuild documentation, basically we take the powertrain subset of that documentation for the certified powertrain. And you can see this is typically what's done on a wheel loader from the radiator up through the final drives. In some cases, we only have the highest level. We have certified documentation is at the powertrain level. But you can see the major components during a CPT are done. And this will just give you a different perspective from a haul truck. We do require that the components that are being rebuilt in a CPT be painted. It's up to you as a customer to decide if you want to paint the machine or not. Again, it's from the radiator through the finals. Again, optional coverage, extended coverage is available, as well as financing. Please consult with your dealer. And we have a little over 1,600 serial number prefixes available within the CPT program. And this is just a list of the components that we would require to be used in a certified powertrain. The key one here I want to point out is over here where it says on the right-hand side, most of the way down, it says electronic controls and sensors which function to direct power to move the machine. Those will be required to be replaced as well. Let me go back a slide. The difference between a CPT and then a CPT Plus, the CPT Plus is exactly that. Working with your dealer, you may choose to do additional parts of the machine. You may want to do some cab work or upgrade a cab. Is a very good example. You may want to put some upgrade or some retrofits or upgrades on it, maybe improved egress ladders or things like that. And then we also have the certified machine component rebuild, again, which is part of the certified rebuild programs. Components covered today are engines, machine engines, transmission and torque converters, depending whether they're in individual housings or the torque converter is in the same housing as the transmission, axles, final drives, and differentials. So what's in it for you for the customer? Along with all the repair options and reman that John talked about, CMCR is there. It gives you a complete suite of machine options to choose from your dealer, from rental to CPT Plus, used, dealer rebuilds. You may choose to use the dealer rebuild over the CAT full certified rebuild. Obviously the certified rebuild as well as new. And as I mentioned on a previous slide, we did some sampling on some track type machines and looked at its history on repair work order history and at that data. And we talked about switches and and gauges and wiring harnesses required to be replaced. And why we do that is if you look at the number of work orders that, as well as downtime, as well as cost, the highest percentage of events as well as downtime and cost were those type of items. They were the switches, the harnesses, the gauges, the miscellaneous type of components within the parts within the machine. John, do we have all the questions answered?
There's one more if they can get a link. So I just talked to Lynette, and the link's going to be sent out to all the participants after the fact. So you'll get a link so you can view this at a later time if you want to. Any other questions?
With that, I'd like to thank everybody for participating. If there's no more questions,
I just Lynette told me the link is in the meeting invite. So if you got a meeting invite, the link to, let me see if it's in mine. Bear with me here. Do you have the meeting invite, Tim? I don't have it on my calendar, unfortunately.
I don't have it open, John.
Okay, no problem. We'll get it. We'll get the link to the participants. I'll let her know to send it out.
Okay, so we do have one more question. The difference between a CAT certified rebuild versus a dealer rebuild. CAT has very tight requirements on what has to be replaced and how and what tests need to be done. A dealer working with the customer may choose not to do all the wiring harnesses, for example, the main wiring harness, or they may not choose to do a lot of cab work to help the customer control their costs. So the difference is just what is not done that is required by Caterpillar Certified Rebuild Program. With that, I think we appreciate you joining and hope that I like the opportunity to present to you today. So with that, we can bid you a good day.
Thank you.